Welcome to an episode of ExCEL with Gabrielle. I'm your host, Gabrielle Jordan, and every Sunday at 7 p.m. I'll be giving motivational advice and entrepreneurial tips to entrepreneurs and leaders just like yourself. So make sure you go to my website, GabrielleJordanInspires.com/ExCEL to subscribe to the ExCEL Youth Mentoring Institute, and also tell people about this because I wouldn't want anybody to miss anything. So today on ExCEL with Gabrielle, it is another fourth Sunday, which means I have another adult interview for you. This one is one you're definitely going to learn a lot from. I have for you Mr. Bob Burg. He's one of the co-authors of the best-selling book, The Go-Giver. Now, this book has over 500,000 copies sold and has been translated into 21 languages. So if you haven't read it, read it. If you've already read it, read it again. Because this is definitely one of those books you should always have on your bookshelf. So I am very excited to get into this interview with Mr. Bob Burg. Let's do this. Welcome, Mr. Bob.
Well, hello, Ms. Gabrielle. How are you?
I am good. How are you?
Good. You know, I am just so amazed by everything you've done and everything you're doing. It really gives me, and I've told, a lot of my friends about you, and it gives us hope about our future leaders and where we're heading, because I'll tell you what, entrepreneurship is such a huge part of success, of bringing everyone up. But it's leaders like you who are really leading the field and setting the stage. Well, I just can't tell you how much I admire you. Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you so much. I mean, I am inspired by you. I mean, this is why I've been really excited to do this interview with you, because I absolutely love your book, The Go-Giver. I am so excited to talk about it and to be able to talk about it with one of the co-authors. It's really exciting. And
thank you.
So to start, what is, for those that don't know about The Go-Giver, what is the plot behind this book?
It's really about a young, up-and-coming, ambitious, aggressive, good guy named Joe, who was not nearly as successful as he thought he should be at this point. And what he really needed was to kind of get a shift in focus. What he learned after meeting Pindar, the main mentor, and some of the other mentors in the story, is he learned that shifting your focus, and that's really what it's about, shifting your focus from getting to giving. Now, in this context, when we say giving, we really mean constantly and consistently providing value to others. And that doing so, by the way, is not only a nice way to do business, to live life, it's a very financially profitable way as well. Now, why is that? Because, it almost sounds like, well, you're just saying, that's just, being nice and is that really good? It's not just a matter of being nice. Right. Being nice is a great thing. You should be nice.
Of course.
But that's not, here's really what it is. In a free market-based economy. Now, when I say that, what I really mean is when no one is forced to buy from you. Free market means people buy, sell, trade with each other willingly, okay? And in this and that's what we have. No one has to buy your books. No one has to buy your jewelry. No one has to buy this. No one has to buy any of the entrepreneurs you're teaching who have a product or service. No one has to buy any of it, okay? They're not going to buy it because you need the money. They're not going to buy it because you think they should. They're going to buy because they believe that they are better off by doing so than by not doing so. This is good. This is the way it should be. Because what that means is we must place our focus on them, on giving value to them. Yeah, exactly. When you think about it, selling, and that's what it all comes down to, selling. But sometimes selling has this bad connotation about it, right? But people think selling is about trying to convince someone to buy something they don't need or want. That's not what selling is. In fact, that's called being a thief if you do that. Try to sell something that someone doesn't want or need. Why would you, try to convince them to do something wrong for them? That's not selling. That's being, not a good person. Selling can be defined like this. It's discovering what the other person wants, needs, or desires, and helping them to get it. And you help them get it through your product or service. That's why the focus needs to be on the other person. This is why John and I say that money is simply an echo of value. Okay? So the value must come first. Our focus must be on pleasing them, on bringing value to them.
Yeah.
And then the money we receive is the result of giving them something that was useful to them.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's about.
Yeah. And when I was reading the book, I got a lot, of course, from the values and the the 5 values that you shared in the book. I got a lot from those, but then also just kind of in between that, just learning a lot about making sure that you have value in your company and in yourself, because a lot of this book doesn't have to just be applied as an entrepreneur, but as a person.
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
And I found a lot about so you kind of shared a lot about the background of this book, and so I find that some of the things that you shared just now kind of inspired you to write this book. Is there anything that really kind of pushed you into I really want to get this book out there, I really want to write this?
That's a good question. Let me answer it on a couple different levels.
Okay.
One is, years ago, my first book after I started speaking, and I wrote my first book only because I wanted to give myself more credibility as a speaker. I didn't really want to necessarily write a book. I wanted to speak, but I knew that writing a book would be a good tool to help doing that. And the book was called Endless Referrals, and it was about business networking, cultivating what I call the know you, like you, trust you relationships with people. When I was in sales, there was a gentleman at the company where I was working, and he was a kind of an older guy, which, come to think of it, it probably meant he was my age. But I was so much younger, I was looking at him as like a much older. He's probably my age, very old guy. And so I remember, when I was a young sales guy, and I think I was kind of like Joe. I had good potential, I meant well, but he saw that I kind of needed an attitude adjustment. And I came back after an appointment where the person didn't buy, and I remember being kind of mad about it. And he said to me, Burg, he said, if you want to make a lot of money in business, if you want to make a lot of money in selling, he said, remember not to have making money as your target. Your target is serving others, or what we call bringing value to others. Your target, he said, is serving others. Now, when you hit the target, you'll get a reward. The reward will be money, and you can do with that money whatever you'd like. But never forget, the money is simply the reward for hitting the target. It's not the target itself. That your target is serving others. Exactly. So that was the message. And so that was sort of the message of Endless Referrals, the basic premise. But I thought, wouldn't it be great to take that, because Endless Referrals was a how-to book. And I love reading business parables. They're so much fun to read. And I don't know how many you've read, but there's a lot out there. Like John Gordon has great books like The Energy Bus, The No Complaining Rule. Back in the day, Spencer Johnson wrote Who Moved My Cheese?
I love that book.
Right. And before that, remember, he and Dr. Kenneth Blanchard wrote a whole series of books called The 1 Minute Manager, 1 Minute Salesperson. So there's lots of those out there. And I just love them. I just thought there were such wonderful ways to be able to connect with people with a story. And so I had the idea for The Go-Giver, but, I'm a how-to author, not really a storyteller in terms of writing a book of fiction. So I knew it was not something I was going to be able to really bring the most value to, but I knew there was a lot of potential in it. So I asked John David Mann, who at the time was the editor-in-chief of a magazine I used to write for. And he was such a brilliant editor, and people who knew him back then, now he's co-authored a whole bunch of New York Times bestsellers. He's in big demand. But back then, only a certain amount of people in a certain niche knew about him, but everyone knew he was brilliant who knew him. So I asked him, I said, would you be I said, I've got this idea for a story and I'd like to run it past you. And, it's kind of, and I said, would you? And so I actually met with him and Anna, his, back then his fiance, now his wife. And when they were visiting her mom in Tampa, which is across the state from me, we met and we discussed the book for a few hours. And then he thought about it. He was very busy, but he called me back and he said, Bob, I really think we have something here. And I thought, I'm so glad he said that, because I knew he could do a great job as the lead writer, the lead storyteller. He's just such a brilliant, brilliant guy. And so, we collaborated on the book together, and that's pretty much how that came out.
That's amazing. And I think that's really great. I know a lot of books and a lot of great books come out from inspiration from other people. And so hearing that, this is actually pretty inspiring for other young people because this ExCEL, these videos are really for young people to watch and be inspired by not only myself, but by other entrepreneurs that are doing amazing things. And so with a lot of these young people, they're not all entrepreneurs. Some of them just want to be leaders. Some of them just want to, kind of get inspiration. And so I found, you shared a little bit when I was doing some research about you. I saw that something that you would say was, that this book and, kind of the philosophy behind how this book does not just have to be for entrepreneurs, but, for just having that entrepreneurial spirit and to kind of, you don't have to be an entrepreneur to be entrepreneurial. And
absolutely.
So I really did want you to kind of expound a little bit about that because I really would like the young people watching to hear that. And because that's something that I like to talk about a lot. But I'd like to hear your perspective on not having to be an entrepreneur to be entrepreneurial.
I'm so glad you brought that up. That is such a wonderful question because not everybody, first of all, is going to be an entrepreneur.
Exactly.
Secondly, most people aren't going to, unlike you and in your, a lot of your, most people don't become entrepreneurs till they're at least in their 20s, if not their 30s, 40s, so a lot of times we even start out, let's say you work for someone else. Let's say you work in a pizza restaurant, okay? You can be just as much of a go-giver, as much of an entrepreneur, only we would call it an intrapreneur. Because it's within a company, right?
Exactly.
And so who is your client when you're an entrepreneur? If you're a waiter in a pizza restaurant or the busboy or busgirl or whatever, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Who's your customer? Well, it's your employer who's your customer as well as the guests who come in. Okay? So everything you do, you want to add exceptional value to. That means you work quickly. You work with a smile on your face. You come in 10 minutes early. You don't arrive late in a huff. It means that when you're clearing a table or something and the person says, you're well, or says thank you to you, you don't say no problem. And you don't say even you're welcome. You say my pleasure.
Right.
And you get in the habit of saying my pleasure.
Yeah.
When you greet someone, you don't, a guest, you don't say, how you doing? You say, good morning or good afternoon. You say, sir and ma'am. It means that when you clean up, it means that you make sure it's spotless. Because, a good friend of mine, and a person I used to do some programs for, his name is T. Harv Eker, and he has a book called Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And one of the things he says in this book is, how you do anything is how you do everything. And what that really means, you know what I mean, exactly. And so that's the key. So, so don't say, oh, well, I'm not going to work real hard now, but when I'm working for myself, I will. No, you won't. You'll do everything. It means when you make your bed, get in the habit of making the bed really, really nice and taut because it's just what you do. And what happens, you start forming habits of doing these things.
I find, like when I speak to a lot of with young people, I tell them a lot about entrepreneurial spirit and how it's important, how the entrepreneurial spirit is really about having that mindset of getting in the habit of doing greatness for your regular life.
Right.
And just as you were saying, making your bed with excellence, washing the dishes with excellence, whatever it is, it's having that mindset of I'm doing everything that I'm doing with excellence and in the hopes of doing better than I did last time, and just kind of thinking of doing better and being greater at what you were doing. And so I find that is just such an amazing thing to learn about, especially for young people at a young age, to have that in their minds and have that mindset already like locked in so that they can continue to practice that entrepreneurial mindset and entrepreneurial spirit. So in the book, you talk a lot about, you didn't actually state it, but you did really talk a lot about mentorship. And I find my mentorship is, of course, very important to me. I started this ExCEL Youth Mentoring Institute to mentor these young people that join it. And so share with me, or share with us a little bit about what your perspective on mentorship is, why you feel it's important.
Well, I feel mentorship is very important because first of all, because it can help cut the learning curve immeasurably. Now, mentoring, is not necessarily the same as coaching. Coaching tends to be a lot more step-by-step. Mentoring is kind of thought of as more of the 30,000-foot view, but they can also work together very well as well. Your coach can also be your mentor and so forth. And so, but let's look at a couple different aspects of this. When it comes to how to succeed at something, it's best to follow a system. And I define a system as simply the process of predictably achieving a goal based on a very logical and very specific set of how-to principles. In other words, if it's been proven that by doing a certain thing, you'll get the results of B, okay, then you know all you need to do is A and keep doing A and keep doing A, you'll get the desired results of B, okay? That's a system. Someone like you, who's both a mentor and a coach with what you're doing, you're showing people a system that worked for you, that the principles can work for anyone else who utilizes your services as a coach and mentor, okay? So what that does is when you can find that coach or mentor, it again cuts your learning curve. It means, yeah, you're still going to make some mistakes. Of course, we all do. But it means you're going to make less mistakes. You're going to utilize what we call OPE. We've heard of OPM, other people's money, sometimes as a way to help it. But this is OPE, other people's experience, or OPW, other people's wisdom. And so when we can do that, that's a great way to be able to help us achieve what we want faster. And then we're in a position to be able to help and mentor others.
Exactly. I mean, that's something that is very important to keep in mind. When you have a mentor, you learn from them, you get their experience and their wisdom, but then it's also important to pass that down to other people that
absolutely
wisdom,
absolutely
not talk to yourself. So thank you so much for sharing about mentorship. I try to kind of influence young people to make sure to be aware of mentors as much as possible, because it is such an important tool for yourself and also for other people that you may meet along the way. Now, you already gave some amazing advice for young people that are watching, and from me personally, I've learned so much so far. But if there is like a nugget that you find that you like to share with people, or that you could give to a young person that maybe wants to be an entrepreneur or wants to have an entrepreneurial spirit or have the law of value and understand that, what would you share with them?
Well, one thing I would say that's very important to really understand is that people skills are an absolutely vitally important aspect to success. Technical skills, whether it's on the computer or even when we talk about a certain product or service, yes, we've got to be very good at what we do, of course. But there's a lot of people who can do that. That's just the entry for being in the game, for being able to play. We have to have a great product or service, of course. We have to know what we're doing. But it's being able to work with people. It's being able to, and I call this having ultimate influence, and that is being able to obtain the results you want when dealing with others, and in such a way that you help them feel genuinely good about themselves, about the situation, and about you. And when you can master people skills, so, reading books such as How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, even though it was written in the 1930s, it's just as, valuable today. And any kind of books you can read on really improving your people skills. Now, here's an interesting thing. And, my greatest example with this is my dad. He's the greatest person when it comes to people skills. Just people, he goes somewhere once and people would love him. And I mean, he's just genuinely, but here's what I take away from it. And Dad never said this, but here's what a saying, I came up with this, but I think of it, I was inspired by Dad, and that is this. The single greatest people skill, okay? The single greatest people skill is a highly developed and authentic interest in the other person. Now, see, what I always saw in my dad was when he was talking to someone, he was absolutely, completely interested in them. And they understood that. He communicated that. It was genuine. It was authentic. And, I don't know if I've ever gotten to that point of pure authenticity with everybody, but I try. And but that, if you can do that, if you can be genuinely interested in others, to learn, and to some people it comes more naturally to others. Okay, I think with my dad it was a gift. I think that was just something that he, with me, I had to work at it.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of people do. But it's okay if you have to work at it. Do it anyway. That's what I say. Be genuinely interested in that other person, and it comes through. And they know it. And like I always say, and John and I say it in The Go-Giver, all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust. And they're much more likely to feel that way about you when they know you genuinely care about them.
That is amazing. I that's something that I definitely need to hear myself, because I know I've heard of doing people will do business people that they know, like, and trust, and I continue to try and build that skill of and that kind of that ability to really genuinely care about what the other person is saying. And even though I am a person that does care about what the other person is saying, that is still something that you have to constantly work at.
We're human beings, of course. We're human beings. We're interested in ourselves.
Exactly.
We're human beings.
Exactly.
So yes, it's something we do have to work, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, and so young people, make sure to keep that note in mind and work on that, because that is definitely a really amazing tip and nugget for these young people to take away. So can you share with us, is there anything that you kind of are working on now that you're kind of getting out in the future, or any other books, anything that you might want to share?
Well, John and I have a new book called The Go-Giver Leader that's coming out soon.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah, we have certified Go-Giver speakers, and on Facebook we have a Go-Giver ambassadors page where my business partner, Kathy Tajanel, puts a quote from the book on there every day. So we have all these sorts of fun things that we're doing in ways that we feel we can add value, and it's just it's a lot of fun.
Very cool. Awesome. And so to finish off, can you share with us, just some ways that we can kind of go on your website, if you have a website for the book, or do you have any social media?
Oh, yeah. Well, Burg.com, BURG.com, is my webpage, and pretty much everything's there. Connecting with me on social media, subscribing to our Influence and Success Insights, information on the different books. Fortunately, my business partner, Kathy, is so brilliant, and she's fantastic, and she just did such a great job of setting everything up, and pretty soon we'll be having a podcast, the Go-Giver podcast. We're going to have to get you on that.
Oh,
that would be great. Will you come on the show?
Sorry?
Will you come on the show as a guest?
I would definitely, yes. Yes,
excellent.
Please, sign me up.
All right. Yeah. And so that's really what we're doing.
Awesome. Okay, great. And so everybody, those links will be down below. The link to his website will be down below. And I also will have the link of the GoGiver.com, the book website, will be down below too, because I definitely want you guys to get that book. It was amazing for me. I learned so much from it. And it's a book that you don't just read once. You read that like quarterly to update yourself.
Thank you. That's very nice. That's a nice compliment.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you guys. Thank you guys so much. Make sure to check out that information. And thank you, Mr. Bob, so much for joining me on ExCEL.
Oh, thank you again. I just love what you're doing. You are such a shining example of everything that's just right. So that's thank you for everything.
Yes, and I hope that you guys really learned a lot from this. All right, you enjoy yourself. Thank you so much again. Thank you guys for watching the episode of ExCEL with Gabrielle. I hope that you enjoyed this interview with Mr. Bob Burg. I know I did personally. It was a great learning experience for me to talk to one of the co-authors of The Go-Giver. So make sure to check out the link in the description and get this book, because it is a great read. Also, make sure to go to my website, GabrielleJordanInspires.com/ExCEL. Subscribe to the ExCEL Youth Mentoring Institute. You can email me at ExCEL@GabrielleJordanInspires.com to send me any questions, comments, or concerns that you'd like me to discuss in my next video. And I hope that you'll join me next Sunday at 7 p.m. to learn, grow, and excel with Gabrielle. I'll see you later. Bye.